So first of all, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to each one of you who has joined us today for this power-packed panel discussion. It is so great to see so many of us adapting so quickly and also developing new ways to kind of get in touch, using technology and to maintain connectivity, more importantly with family and friends during this time. It is, no doubt that COVID-19 has impacted the industry quite out of the blue. And in order for us to be better prepared with, what's to come next, what the future looks like, we've organized this panel talk, and we are so thankful to all our esteemed panelists who have joined us here today. So without wasting any time further and without boring you guys by talking about, just COVID-19, I'm going to start introducing my wonderful panelists. So I'm going to begin with Angelica. So Angelica, hi to everyone.
Hi.
Angelica is joining us from Milan. She's a brand consultant for an Italian brand called Mishkaioki. Next, we have on the screen Saurabh. Saurabh, can you just say hi to everyone very quickly?
Hi, everybody. Delighted to be here on this panel today. Thank you.
So Saurabh is Director Sales and Marketing, St. Regis. Next, we have Parina Thapar. Parina,
hi, everyone.
Great. So Parina is the founder of Longform PR. It's a PR company based out of New Delhi. Rizwan, I'm going to save you for last. Next, we have Gauri Kohli. Gauri Kohli is the director of PR Pundits, another PR firm based out of Delhi, which handles mainly luxury brands. Then we've got Mr. Pai, so Ajit Pai, so Audi India West. Could you say hi to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Good evening, and pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. So we've got Mr. Tariq next, Tariq Azmi. He's joining us from Dubai. He's the founder of Here's Good News. He's been, training. I'm sure you guys have already gone through the profile of all of our panelists. Next, we've got Megha Malagatti, who's joining us from Paris. She's the business development director for L'Oreal. And last but not the least,
hi everyone.
Thank you, Megha, for saying hi. Last but not the least, we've got Rizwan Bachav, who's going to be moderating the panel for us, and he's going to be leading the discussion. So I'd like to introduce him. So he's one of the top luxury lifestyle influencers today, key opinion leaders. I'm sure a lot of you are already following him and looking at the great things that he's doing on the social media platform. So I think I'm going to take a step back now. But before I do, I would also like to very quickly introduce Priyanka and Akshay, who I'm sure you can see them on the screen. So Priyanka and Akshay are going to be there. They're part of my team who would be assisting us if we have any technical issues during the panel. So Priyanka and Akshay, you can quickly say hi, or I guess you guys are on mute. I'm going to take a step back now, and I'm going to be rejoining you guys during the last leg of the panel discussion, which is the Q&A sessions when we take questions from the audience. But I would like to remind each one of you to reserve your questions just towards the when we are nearing the end of the panel. Rizwan, I think I'm going to let you take the lead now.
Thank you, Smita, for a lovely introduction, and good evening to everyone, all the panel members and all the audience members. And thank you again for hosting such key members from the luxury space to discuss one of the most relevant topics right now, COVID-19 and its impact on global luxury business. So without further ado, I'll jump straight into the discussion. And before I open to everyone for specific questions, I have a couple of questions, which will sort of help us lay the groundwork for the rest of the 60 minutes. So without wasting much time, we feel that the pandemic has allowed every individual to introspect and rethink their habits, from spending time with family to working from home to spending only on limited resources and absolutely no spending on luxury. And this has been sort of taken as a positive change by many. So do you think this global shift in thinking will impact the way the luxury industry is perceived? My question is to all the panel members. So whoever wants to take a lead, maybe Gauri or Tariq, you want to start with this?
Gauri, I'd be more than happy to give you the lead on this.
Yes. So, I think post this pandemic, and that's the question, very eminent question today. I think people are going to, emotions in luxury spending has always been at the core of it. We all spend more on emotions, not been a very rational sort of a spend. Post this pandemic, the initial luxury consumer will go back to purchasing to make themselves feel better, what has been called revenge or retaliatory spending. We'll see a little bit of that. But I think this summer, for spring, summer, all of the seasonal buys and all of the things, we are missing almost a season, whether it is India, US, Europe, we are all locked down, stores are closed, online is coming back slowly. So we will see accelerated shift toward digital shopping. When safe, then the consumers will return to physical stores, possibly, hopefully with a renewed passion. But I think there is going to be some bit of digital shopping that will stick to all of us, whether it's scoring an online deal or trying to find out new whatever is there, not going to the store and really exploring it. But I think if brands move cautiously and try to center everything around experiences and give more, as luxury brands have always tried to, I think there will be a shift where online will also see a mirror little bit coming back to physical stores. There will be a heightened environmental consciousness, so it's all going to be related to where ethics become as important as aesthetics. It's important to note that these consumers are going to also give a lot of factors in their spending towards brands that are going to be, giving back to the environment. So it's more conscientious and benevolent sort of enlightened brands that they will go to. So I think brands will have to readjust, look at being more transparent. And I think there will also be, in the long term, we will see a rise in this continuing to consolidate the environmental and social aspect of all brands.
Absolutely. Lovely. I totally agree with all the items that you've mentioned. And I love when you spoke about emotions. So now we're talking about elements such as emotions. How are we going to capture the emotions of people that are not going individually, personally to retail, as well as being relevant? So we also have several participants in the panel that want and are eager to jump on this question, which is amazing. And I think, Megha, from your perspective in basically in France or in Europe, you want to give us perhaps a little bit of information. I would love to hear how all that fits in the world of cosmetics.
Sure.
And well, so
Sure, Tariq. I think, luxury is a concept that has been existing since we evolved, basically. Since humans evolved, it's feeling exclusive, it's feeling out of the ordinary, and it's being rare. So this kind of a feeling everybody wants to feel, and this is what luxury brands have been basically built themselves on. And this feeling will never go away from a human being. So for sure, when, as you and Gauri, suggested, currently there is a lack of access to these products. And yes, this will affect in purchasing the products. But once the market reopens, whether it's online or offline, there will definitely be this certain set of population that are going to wanting to feel exclusive again. So it will definitely bounce back.
Yes,
and
I agree, Megha. And you just made me think of something. We're all locked up in our homes, and we have so much that we want to show off that we haven't been for such time. This is a beautiful opportunity. Saurabh, I think also you want to jump on the occasion to speak to this. And
thank you. I kind of echo with everything that has been shared so far. I think one of the most foremost impact that we may see is actually a change in the consumer behavior tomorrow. Because what I believe is that there may be a bit of a decline in the so-called conspicuous consumer and a rise of a more conscientious consumer. So in the context of my industry, so to speak, a luxury consumer would be more inclined to probably move away from the loud, blingy, attention-seeking, in-your-face kind of experiences, and may move to maybe a little more discreet, private experiences. because the term luxury, and especially responsible luxury, I think will have to be taken far more seriously now in the context of what the current environment is. I think, secondly, if I may say, consumers will be passionately wanting to go back to stores, and enjoy the good old touch, feel, look kind of an experience. While some of the digital shopping habits will maybe will stick, because consumers don't have an option right now but to kind of experience it digitally. But I think they will be really itching to go back and enjoy that good old luxury experience.
Human experience, basically having human experience.
Yeah. Also, and this is again a very personal view that I have. I feel that especially in India, there is this renewed sense of pride for the local. Special certain luxury brands, not necessarily who are originating, but even being manufactured in certain parts of the world, may witness some backlash where there could be a larger demand for local, high quality, really discerning brands, and this would mean there'll be more competition for maybe some of the international brands which have been the favorite so far. And also, I feel the upper middle class of the many emerging nations, which were earlier maybe not driving as much growth in luxury, because I think luxury has predominantly been China and Europe's domain. I think you may see that many brands may need to be more creative in the offerings.
So sorry to interrupt. So we'll come back to that important point that you mentioned, the pride for the local, and in some of the following questions. So I'll probably save that for
sure
that particular question, so that we have more insights onto that topic.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that leaves us with a good sort of foundation for the rest of the discussion. Now jumping to another important question that has been the key discussion these days, that is to do with the Chinese customers, right? So according to a 2019 Bain study, 90% of the growth of the entire luxury business was thanks to Chinese customers alone, which almost accounted to 35% of the value of luxury goods. Now, the rest of the world tried to catch up, but with very little success. Now, the greatest focus of most of the luxury brands in the last decade or so has been to target the Chinese customers and generate maximum revenues through them. So how important do you feel right now it is for most of the luxury brands to depend on one particular country for their sales or forecast? And do you think the brands will now start shifting to other countries to divide their risk and adapt their styles into their products? And do you think India will somewhere be at the top of this ladder?
Rizwan, may I take this question?
Absolutely.
Because since me and Angelica are literally at the heart, of the luxury brands over here. I'm sure, being part of Comité Colbert Society over here, which houses most of the luxury brands in Paris, and I'm part of that. So we have been discussing with other brands as well over here in Paris on how they're re-strategizing to think on, how to address to other consumers around the world. Now, if you look at few of the brands such as Gucci or Balenciaga, yes, of course, 70% of the revenues have been, attained by addressing the Chinese consumers. Now, if you look at other brands such as Hermes, Krug, or even Moina or Goya, they have kind of, a spread out in terms of consumer base. They have US, they have Europe, they have Japan, Korea, Middle East, and Russia. Now, yes, today with the spending capacity of Chinese, that has been the focus in the past, few years, and brands have been kind of neglected, I would say, the other consumers. So to move forward, what they're doing right now is to go back and revisit the developed markets. That's the top line strategy, because in the developed markets, people understand luxury. They know the products, they know the brands. And these guys have been neglected. Countries like Europe, USA or Japan. So these are the three top countries that they are addressing. And then they're preparing the grounds for the emerging markets. And here in the emerging markets, for sure, India and Africa is at the top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. And Angelica, you are also at the heart of Europe. So
yeah.
to hear your feedback. And then
sure.
if we may, once you mentioned that, because I see that Ajit wants to also jump on this question. So would love to hear from him as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will be very, very quickly because I agree with Mega. And of course, every brand, they have some country that represent the biggest part of the revenue. That's normal. But about the Chinese, what I think is that they will go ahead to be top spender for luxury. But what is changing now is consider then in 2019, for example, we can count 150 million of travel from China about luxury consumer that they spend their money abroad their country because they used and they like to travel. And so, for example, 50% of the total spending of Chinese luxury clients, they spend out of the country. So in Milan, London, Paris, New York, Dubai. So now the company, I think they have to meet these clients locally. And the same, I think, is valid for India, because in India, that is always my point, you know, it's such a big country, beautiful country, but I always had problems to open a retail. Maybe a lot of partners say the clients are not ready, but at least they had the opportunity to travel and to buy. Now that this opportunity is more difficult for the next 6 months, I think the brand, each luxury brand, is more interesting to meet these clients locally in India, in China. So it will just change the strategy, but the consumer will be the same. And maybe, as Mega said, also the emerging country, we will put as brand, as luxury brand, we will put more attention on them because we know they are important more than before in this difficult situation to achieve our goal, our revenue, our budget. So it's more a democratic situation, you know,
Yes.
and even the collection will be for everyone, not only with a specific mood for Chinese taste or for US taste. It will be more, as Saurabh said before, we will back to the stone. So the product will be more neutral, not too much trendy. For I am Chanel, this is my bag. If you like, you buy. If you don't like, you don't buy. I don't do Chanel for China. This is what I think.
Ajit, your views on this? Ajit, I'm not able to hear you. Is it me or? I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with what Megha and Angelica had to say. But then from my industry point of view, I have a slightly different perspective to put here. China being the biggest market, I mean, if you look at luxury cars, China is by far the largest market, and the second one is way, way behind China. So it would not be really a attempt here to look at other markets to replace China. It is not going to happen because China being such a huge market and the kind of investments made by each of these OEMs, it's going to be difficult for sure. And to not look at such a bigger volume player would also be a strategically a mistake, big mistake to cope up with. So I think the China focus will continue as far as automotive is concerned. And that is what my take on this point.
Ajit, I completely agree with you. Even the luxury brands over here, we're not going to, you know, ignore the Chinese consumers. And to your point, for sure, the Chinese consumers cannot be replaced. So
one is replacement. Second one is the kind of investments that are made
absolutely
to develop products. And it is,
absolutely.
You are not going to change the product line in a flash of time. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of money. And this kind
absolutely.
of COVID scenario where
absolutely.
cash crunch is an issue. So probably some of the brands will continue to focus on China, which is going to be showing some sort of recovery. If you look at certain articles, it is already showing some recovery. In fact, brands like Mercedes-Benz, Audi, BMW, everybody is reporting a footfall for their showrooms in China.
Now, Ajit, to build on what you are saying, and part of the question was do we consider or do we think that India is going to be at the top of the ladder? Now, I don't want to put a political spin on the conversation, but given the circumstances and how things may develop between the growth of countries, and considering that this whole COVID pandemic started from China, there is a potential that the main hub of production that was China might become somewhat diluted, and then all of this production, or a big percentage of this production, may move into India. So from your perspective, understanding the luxury automotive, do you feel that there will be growth in terms of production, let's say, for the Indian market?
There would certainly be a growth in Indian automotive sector as well, because obviously problems will lead to localized sourcing, localized productions. But then again, it is going to take time. If you take United Nations statistical details, China accounts to 4 trillion in manufacturing, and they contribute almost 29% of the manufacturing, whereas India comes just about 2.9% of it. Changing that scenario from, which is 10 times bigger, to immediately change it is going to take a longer time, and it may not happen, but yes, that is the way forward. And majority of the countries, be it India, be it Europe, or for that matter, US, which are talking about getting back their production plants to their native countries. And look at Japan, what they have done. They have announced certain measures to encourage their companies to relocate from China. So all these things, a lot of emotions going into it, the ethnicity related issues would come up, and there would be a chance that the production would slowly move out of China. The dependence may not be as high as it is today on China.
Clear.
Okay. Thank you, Ajit. And I think on that interesting point raised by you on the local automobile sector, probably we'll come back to you at a later time. Sure. So now jumping into the more specific questions that I have for the panel. So my next question to Gauri and Parina. As we know, in the recent past, collections have augmented during the year. We've seen capsule collections coming out, limited editions, temporary shops penetrating into the markets. Sustainability efforts in comparison were sort of very low as compared to the discount outlets and overstock retailers. So as we know, luxury since the beginning meant slow pace, attention to detail, and bespoke. Luxury was a story of a passionate creator aiming to leave a lasting mark in the history of. So do you think these few months of pandemic will take the brands to the actual spirit of luxury and heritage?
Gauri, would you like to start? I'll join in after that.
Sure, absolutely. So with luxury, I think, again, the demand has always been something which has been, more on handcrafted, premium quality, and something that's of lasting value. That's always been at the core of it. So if brands will go back to the actual spirit of luxury and heritage, they've always been symbolic of that. The symbolic value or functional value of these goods and services have been far more. So it's not a functional value, more a symbolic value. Consumers' habits will change, of course. When new generation consumers are going to be hoping for more experiences. So I think the attention to detail, bespoke, and I think each of the consumers are looking at focusing on expressing their own individuality rather than the ownership. So luxury was already going through that seismic shift. And I think now this shift pushes luxury brands to actually, this pandemic will work as a catalyst where I think people will work post-crisis. Brands will need to address the trend towards more responsible consumption, reinforcing the need for companies for detailed information about their savoir-faire or processes, and more silent luxury, if you may say. Like earlier, we were talking about non sort of logo or bling. It's actually going to go back to the exact ethical sort of consumption of sorts. And I think with this health crisis, we are going to see that whether it's new collections brands look at, it is all going to be geared towards addressing this. And it is actually coming back to the spirit of luxury that they will come back to.
Thank you, Gauri. Rizwan, I think moment the pandemic has really been out, and if we hear the first few voices of the creative
leaders up there from the luxury world, be it Armani, be it any other creative director. At this time, everybody has spoken their heart out of trying to remember what is actually the purpose of luxury. It is always advocated craftsmanship. It is always advocated going a little deeper into beyond product to heritage. They've been talking about slow living for so long. But the fact is, at the end of the day, when you run a business which has a certain scale and somewhere you get on to managing the logistics of supply chain, offloading capsules, oh my God, do I do a cruise? Do I do 2 collections? Do I do 6? So even if all of us have the best intentions, let's face it, once you're on a treadmill, it takes a little bit of a time to slow it down, even if your intent is there. The first of the creative voices that we have seen globally from every industry has been to say we want to slow down. And I think that's something which is not just coming from the consumer. It is consumer will slow down because they are going to be cash strapped. But the creative people are looking to slow down because somewhere they feel their creativity was suffering. They were not able to keep up with the pace at which things had to be done. Technology eventually is a tool to enable what you want to do, but technology is not the medium in itself. So if you're living for the sake of technology versus using it as a medium, it becomes a problem. So if everybody in the end, in the short term, will have a bloodbath, there will be a supply chains to realign, there'll be a merchandise plans to realign, there will be the fact that you have all your eggs in one basket or one market leading over the other. Every business has that. So you would probably start having a little bit of a diversified portfolio coming from common sense business. Do you have cash reserves? You look at Hermes and Chanel, which are the largest brands. They're not owned by any conglomerate. They've been independent. They've been efforts to, sort of have them sell out, but they have been able to have it cash reserves. They've been able to grow to become one of the biggest luxury brands, but at the same time, there is a lot of fundamentals which have been correct. Now, how the pandemic will shape anybody, we don't know. But those are some heartening signs to see that if we can manage the short term with a little bit of long-term thinking, the DNA that all the creators want to be, this is the best time to go back to it. So that's what I feel.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just virtual showrooms to, digitally aligning. I think brands are getting this time to actually make it more seamless to them. If I went to, Chanel in Paris, it's a very different experience than I would get online. So we have to have that. That can never change, but yet we have to work at strengthening and maintaining that strong relationship of where it belongs, the heritage of it. And I think at the end, the investment in innovative and leading edge technologies will help everybody during during this crisis. And I think digitizing end-to-end supply chain is the long-term sort of thing all brands will look at.
Sure. Thank you, Gauri and Parina, for your useful insight.
Just to add one point to Gauri. In fact, I was just reading the Vogue magazine, and they had mentioned that the Shanghai Fashion Week has gone their Weibo, that's the Instagram, and which has garnered almost 11 million views, and they could garner about 26% sales conversion.
Yeah,
so that is in fact one of the questions which we are going to tackle later in the discussion. So I think I'll probably ask you to get some sort of info on that. But now my next question is for you and Saurabh both, and it's an auto and hospitality related question. It's a combined question, but I'll have one question for each one of you. Now the current situation has forced most of the auto and hospitality brands to send a strong message out to the audience saying that stay indoors, that's the best safe bet right now. So what is your take on this? How will the auto industry bounce back? I'm talking about the Indian auto sector here, and after the pandemic, do you think consumers will start shifting more to public modes of transport or shared modes of transport, or will it be the vice versa? And my question number 2.
Rizwan, I'll take your.
I'll just complete my question for Saurabh also, so that then we can discuss it together. Saurabh, when it comes to hospitality, do you think, given that the businesses are now shifting their meetings to Zoom calls against meeting rooms in hotels, so do you think the less expenditure on travel by MNCs will have a great effect on hospitality and the service sector? Probably,
sure.
I'll start with you.
Ajit, I'll let you respond, and then I'll follow.
Okay, Rizwan, I'll take your question into two parts. The first one you were saying is the luxury brands are doing everything that they can do to be in touch with customer. If you look at it's not a choice, it's a compulsion. We have no choice but to be in touch with customers in the preferred medium of theirs. And look at the brands that they have done in automotive sector. You take any of these luxury brands, be it Mercedes, be it Audi, BMW. Everybody has even went to the extent of tweaking their logo to say flatten the curve. That is the best way you could connect with the customers during this COVID pandemic. And yes, showrooms are virtually shut everywhere. So you would expect the sales to go down, and it is going to take a much longer period to rebound, because general seen also during any of this kind of issues, the luxury is the one which will get hit the last. But when it comes to recovery, that is the one which is going to take a longer time than normal brands. So yes, there will be a time flag that luxury brands will have in this case, and it's going to be a gradual, process. Probably they would look at the re-engineering, revalidating their business.
Enough terrorist attacks on a very large scale, so to speak. But we tend to kind of forget, and we tend to kind of bounce back very quickly. That's one. Number two, I think to Megha's point, I think this is for a lot of us the first time ever in our lifetime that we've been confined to, and as Indians, I think we are we're very used to staying in very intimate spaces. We're not a European country where we have a lot of space to us. So we're used to having a lot of people around us. And hence, these are times where, our patience is really being tested. And I guess the moment lockdown kind of lifts up, I think there will be this huge, barrage of people kind of going out, wanting to party, socialize, meet friends, share the stories, what they did. And that's perhaps also the reason why the Indian government is being extremely cautious. They are, they give a 2-week window of extension of the lockdown. And I can guarantee you in 2 weeks' time, our prime minister is going to extend it for another 2 weeks. Because what the government also feels is, let's say if they have to announce a 4-week extension, maybe there could be a sort of a backlash from the people to say, listen, this is too much. We can't stay in house for so long. So, I think there will be a little bit of caution also to that. But yes, I think once these conditions begin to kind of get a little normal, I think retail, fashion, food and beverage industry, all of it, we're going to see a great resurgence of business.
Yeah, but we will also look for discounts, I think, and that's going to be tricky part. And
that will never change.
That will never change, of course. But that we have to be very careful of, because the moment they come out, say for example, June we return back, or July, you actually missed a whole season. What do you do with that huge inventory? One has to think very carefully now to see how you are going to and have plan B's in place and plan C's in place, because honestly, it's going to be, nobody can see how the severity of this, how it's going to pan out. I mean, on 20th, the government is saying, okay, fine, if hotspots don't arise, we're going to do this. If that doesn't happen, we're going to do this. So similarly, all brands have to take their inventory into cognizance and look at how they address the consumer immediately.
And there's a very important element that we need to take into consideration as well. So we are taking the example of China and the revenge purchases or the revenge shopping after Wuhan, for example, opened up after the lockdown. What is important to take note of is, to your point, Saurabh, also, what is the distance, what is the time that each country is going to be in lockdown for? Because the longer the period of time, the more difficult decisions companies are going to have to take. If I take the example of the Middle East or Dubai, for example, now we have been in lockdown for about four weeks officially, and companies are already starting to stress and panic, and they're taking actions towards salary cuts. So if I take a salary cut for a month or 2 or 3, the impact going out of that lockdown is going to be different than a country that was in lockdown for just 1 month and then they came out. So the damage that the salary cut is going to take is going to determine my revenge purchases after that. Am I going to leave my house with zero in my bank account because I needed to use all my savings? Or am I going to go out of this lockdown with still enough disposable income for me to say, okay, yes, we are out, we are social animals, I want to sit and have a coffee with my old friends that I haven't seen in such a long time, and my daughter is giving me the time. She's saying, okay, you said 1 hour, what's going on? So we have to take into consideration what is the length of that lockdown and the impact that is going to have on people financially.
True, I completely agree with you, Tariq. If you look at even different, at every part of the world, and especially in the US right now, the number of job cuts that are happening and the number of people that are coming pretty much on the streets is going to increase unemployment. And this will also be a huge factor to determine, because not every country in the world is like France or Italy, where, the French government protects the labor laws over here, and we all have our jobs safeguarded, because people can't fire you in France and Italy as the companies would wish to do. But in the rest of the world, none of the countries have such luxury of protecting, employees' rights. And this will definitely be a huge impact. Yeah.
Rizwan, let's take questions from the audience now.
Yes, so I'm going to pick up a couple of questions from the audience. First one from Soumya. Although most of the luxury brands emphasize on adhering sustainability practices across supply chain, but the fact is a few brands are actually following the same. So with the current pandemic, when people are realizing the value of nature and natural resources, do you agree that it's time to act on sustainability practices across supply chain?
Well, I think actually the luxury industry is the one which has not been that irresponsible. They've been building the systems into their supply chain and looking at sustainability in a much, much more responsible way. You have to separate what is fast fashion, what is luxury,
Exactly.
what is non-luxury.
Absolutely.
I don't think it applies so much to luxury, because eventually, yes, all of us play a part in having created the problem. Let's not have ownership on that issue. But having said that, when the change starts happening from the top, that is always what percolates down. If the top doesn't change, the bottom will never change. So if a plagiarized print comes down to, your corner store on a polyester, but the print starts trending, anything becomes cool on a trend. So you have to make sustainability become an important trend, which becomes by, iconism is always through repetition. So if you keep saying sustainability, 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 and everything, I think luxury brands work so hard to keep their processes transparent as much as they can. Definitely at every level. But I think many other industries, I would think that they try very hard. And because they are brands in a much more of a public space on perception, on communication, versus many, many other industries which do a lot more of harm. So I'm not saying that I don't have the statistics to know how much is luxury responsible, but I think that's a global problem. It's not just the luxury industry.
Yeah, I think over here, you touched upon a very key point, Parina, over here, because, when you look about luxury, the sustainability and everything from even supply chain perspective, or even the materials that we use, becomes quite questionable in luxury. For example, if you're wearing a Fendi fur jacket, oh my God, you've killed an animal. But while in a restaurant, probably you might be eating hundreds of rabbits, and Fendi has bought those rabbits' hairs, the skins, to make the jacket, which is not really, still. So exactly.
Immigration, there are sweatshops, which is
absolutely.
That is in every field, but I do think luxury tries to bring in sustainability to a mainstream talking point.
Absolutely. And what the reason luxury is actually bringing sustainability from the roots is because its concept is to be rare. You can't find luxury everywhere. Otherwise, you will be ending up, manufacturing millions and millions of Hermes bags, which don't happen today.
Yeah, you also have a name to defend,
So
absolutely. You in luxury, everything, every step of the chain needs to be ethical, even the way you treat your employee.
Yeah.
It's different
Also,
than
may
fast
I say
fashion, as
luxury is not
Prina
just about
rightly.
the product. Luxury is about cultural sustainability. I think a luxury
Exactly.
play a lot of role in bringing inclusivity or taboo conversations into the mainstream and try and create change. Yes, we can all be cynical. We are all in branding and advertising to say how much is it for the purpose of profit. But those conversations have to start somewhere. Somewhere the society thing has to be reflected. And once it is made mainstream, that is also sustainability. So,
And I think recently I read an article, just to let everyone know, it's available on Business of Fashion, where India does a lot of work for luxury brands, because here Chanel, Hermes, Dior, and all of the brands, we use the karigari from India, the what is it called, the embroidered material, and this is done by a lot of artisans that come from India. Now, however, recently when we were even at Comité Colbert, this topic came up because here the French brands had to raise a question to the Indian governments on how they are treating their employees, because it's not as per as the standards of what the brands have decided. You know?
Yeah.
So I think the French and Italian luxury brands have always been extremely transparent, and the code of conduct, even when you're signing on a supplier, I'm sure, Angelica, you've also been through this. We both have been through this. There are number of pages, and on-site reviews.
You are protected. You are more protected than the brand.
Absolutely.
And that should be for all. If we talk about sustainability, it should be, as Parena said, starting from the fast fashion and all the different business models should be valid for all the world, not only for luxury. That's the real sustainability.
I think we are facing a very interesting change in time, because for the past 5-10 years, maybe now, you have all the environmentalists and the advocates of climate change screaming and yelling and saying industries have to change the way that they produce and people have to change the way that they consume. But there's always on the opposite spectrum the people that don't believe in climate change. But when you take a look at just a few days ago, there was an article that the tip of the Himalaya, for the first time in decades, is now, people are able to see it from a distance. It is 100% irrefutable proof of the way that climate change, the humans are affecting climate change. We are all in lockdown. We are not driving our cars. We are polluting less. We are not going into the ocean. Even the oceans seem to be calmer and clearer. So
you can see dolphins.
Exactly, you can see dolphins. We've had stingrays here, apparent also on the surface of the ocean in Dubai. So I think this is very strong proof that is going to impact not just the luxury industry. I agree with you, Parina, definitely in terms of other industries as well that may be more pollutive than the luxury. It's not to say that luxury does not pollute or does not cause any harm to the environment. There is a side spill to that. And I think that we are moving towards more sustainable ways of looking at business, because we now, all of us globally, see the impact of refrain on the environment. And I think no one coming out of this lockdown is going to want to see pollution and fog covering their city.
Yeah, but also Tariq, to your point, you touched upon a very, very interesting point in amount of consumption that human beings have been, taking in today's world. It's in fact, yes, the companies have to be responsible, but bottom line, it comes down to the individual as a human being to question yourself, how much do you want to consume? Because if you want to end up buying 10 Zara tops every month and throw 20 of them every year away, that's not the right way of consuming products. So more than companies, individuals have to also rethink on how they want to define their lifestyle.
Yeah, I think the virus now is giving the opportunity to everyone to rethink a little bit, because the reason why we are now talking about sustainability is because coronavirus, and it's an occasion to talk to our soul. And as Mega say, personally, sometimes me too, I go to Zara too often, and I don't go there because I need, because we don't buy because
absolutely. Absolutely.
We
So
go
we will
because
prioritize. Yeah.
just for to buy. But we have to think what there is behind this constant shopping.
No, absolutely. So that's the reason Mango, Zara, H&M, Uniqlo, they made millions based on the psychology of people wanting to buy.
We have Smita that's jumping in.
We're gonna have to close very soon. We're gonna have to stop the meeting, the webinar very soon. So we literally have just 10 minutes.
Smita, can I take one more question from the audience?
I think we can take the last 2 questions from the audience, Rizwan. So you can, and we gotta be very quick. So I think you can pick your questions.
The next question from Rohan, very relevant. How long will the luxury sector take to recover after the pandemic? Also, how is this directly proportional to the falling economy? So basically, how will we bounce back after the shutdown?
Well, as you know, I can start already talking about what Ajit said, where, you know, Louis Vuitton recently doubled the sales just on Valentine's Day. So I think one channel of e-commerce is already helping sustain the local market, if not the travel retail market in the world. And it all depends on how and when the market reopens and when human, you know, the social life starts. When we go back to the normal days, which nobody knows as of today, when are we going to go back to normal? If I'm discussing with my colleagues over here from other luxury groups like LVMH or Richemont or Kering or even at L'Oreal, we are anticipating with all the, you know, tens of risk assessments that all the finance people have been doing and drawing in the last few weeks, we are hoping that the market is going to come back, hopefully start to recover, but not really recover in a complete way. By the month of September, October of this year, it will probably start opening up. And then it would definitely take another year or so for it to really come back to a normal stage, or probably a year and a half. So this is what we, at least in France, what we are discussing based on other.
And yes, building on what you're saying, Megha. So for, if we want to take generally, we're looking at different industries. The recovery time is expected to be within a year. So by April 2021 is when markets will normalize. But what I, in my opinion, like to add is, what is the meaning of normal? Are we looking at
going back to what we saw last year?
Yeah. So are we looking at recovering and doing what we did in 2019 or the beginning of 2020 based on the projections for Q1, Q2, and until the end of the year?
I think we're going to go back to what we did last year in 2021.
Yeah.
And then 2022 is going to start growing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because here we are talking about retail, but there is also a big wholesale business too.
Absolutely.
So we are now considering when the direct retail store will open the doors, and we hope soon. But then I personally managing a lot of requests of wholesale buyers that are reducing the order, and this will affect the next 3 seasons, spring, summer 20. The fall winter 20 that they bought in February, in the middle of the start of the pandemic, and the coming fall spring summer. So 3 seasons, it means it will affect the next year. So I also think it for the next year we have minus 40% in luxury. I think.
I'll come back to an opportunity. I'll come back to a point of saying revenge buying, what we were saying, right? I mean, starting from there and keeping positive 20 to 30% of the global consumer industry revenue for luxury came from the travelers. Now those travelers are spending in their home countries. So when it opens, we have to look at local experiences, and we have to look at that inventory to reimagine how innovative we can get with local experiences and try and get that in. And it will obviously be a halt, but I think that 20-30% is an important one for each country to consider and see how they can keep robust in their own market.
Absolutely. And coming back to what Tariq said, because, Tariq, you mentioned that, many people would also get unemployed, which we're seeing, which is absolutely true. The employment is going to, bounce back only in 2020 where people start feeling comfortable to, you know, shell out from their wallets. 2021, sorry, not 2020, because this year I think everybody is going to be extremely cautious.
Yep.
And Angelica, I'm completely on board with you. Brands are projecting around -40 to -50% sales this year.
Yeah. Okay, I think Rizwan, last question, and I think after that we're gonna stop. So can we pick one last question from the audience? He's on mute.
There is no voice.
My bad. Yeah, so this question is for the automobile sector. So maybe Ajit can take a lead, and then I think it also applies to other industries. Someone has mentioned that a lot of brands have shifted their manufacturing out of China and they're moving it to their local country. So how will the product expertise, you know, in terms of labor and infrastructure affect that, you know, if you have to move things back to India or any other country for that matter?
Okay, his microphone is on mute.
Ajit, you're on mute.
Yeah, it's not okay. I think. Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Couple of points here. It's not easy to move everything out of China. Even if we move out of China, there are other markets that are going to benefit. One could be Thailand, which is an automotive manufacturing hub. There is Taiwan, which is manufacturing a lot of chips for automotive use. And yes, India is emerging for sure. There are a lot of companies who have set up as a manufacturing base in India. Again, when it comes to the shifting of operation, the scale is what gives China the advantage besides the infrastructure and the manpower availability. If it comes to competence, India is very much there. Just to give you an example, Mercedes-Benz Maybach, out of Germany, the only other country that manufactures Maybach kind of vehicles is India. So that clearly states that India has the capability, the technicalities, and some of the luxury brands, for your information, source the very heart of the car, the engine within India, whether it's a lot of other ancillary parts that comes from India. So it's going to be a gradual process. If you expect it to happen over the next 6 months to 1 year, no, it's not going to happen. Probably it will take a longer time duration, and it's a long perspective for India to ramp up the production. And I would like to make a mention here, the Make in India campaign, which started by the Indian government a few years ago, is going to play a crucial role. And also the government is looking at skill enhancing as a major focus area, which would eventually help India become a global hub for production of various automotive sector brands.
Ajit, I have a question to this one. How do you think the FDI investments are going to, define? Because even the government policies in terms of investing into India are quite rigid and stringent. Do you think that will affect?
Well, I wouldn't completely agree with your point that it is rigid and it's very strict. No, it is not. There are a lot of things that have opened up. But just to give you an example, the way of the digital payments have been opened up. So if you look at Paytm used to control the entire majority of the digital payment system in India. Now, as the Google Pay is there, various other apps have come. So
digital is a totally different, yeah.
No,
digital
I'm saying opening up of the investment opportunities. There are a lot of sectors. Like you look at insurance that has been opened up, a lot of automotive sector, you can have 100% ownership of the manufacturing unit here.
It's very difficult for luxury brands for sure. It's very difficult for luxury brands because we all live on made in France and made in Italy.
Okay.
May not be so for the automotive sector.
Yeah.
May not be so much so in automotive sector. Mercedes-Benz has a manufacturing unit here. So is Audi. So is
Right.
So is BMW. So it's a question of time before we pick up.
We are very soon going to be logged out. I'm sorry. I know you all can keep going on and on and on about this topic, but I'm sorry I have to cut you all. And I hope to the audience that we tried. Maybe we've touched upon most of the points that you raised during the Q&A. I'd like to now request all the panelists to. For a very small gesture, if you can just, hold your hands and just like do a namaste on the screen, to pay tribute to all the COVID heroes during this time so that we can take a picture of you all, please. And I hope that Priyanka is capturing this. Priyanka, just if we can stay for a few seconds. And if I may request you to do the stay positive sign as well. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I think you guys have been amazing. And
thanks.
Thank you very much. Smita, just one suggestion before we wind up. I can see a lot of questions popping out on the right-hand side. Maybe we can take the question and share it with each of the individuals which is targeted at, and maybe we can get back with some sort of answer.
Yes. I would love if we can get your insights on some of the questions. Thank you so much.
Sure, we would love.
We would love
to Smita. Thank you, Rizwan.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. It was a nice session. Yeah. Stay safe. Stay indoors.
Yeah, stay safe.
Till third May in India.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.